Sometimes we think an objection is my kids aren't going to be graduating university for 2 years and I'm not going to be moving until then.
Yeah.
It's not really an objection. It's talking through the scenario and just asking the right questions that, okay, well, you're not going to move within 2 years, but if a great deal came on the market, define what that deal is, and do they have the potential of making a purchase prior to that 2 years? Because we know what the market is today. We don't know what it's going to be in 2 years.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
So being able to define an objection or a circumstance is really huge.
No, absolutely. Because the different situations of our leads definitely do come up. And again, the school is a common one, right? Yeah. So people don't want to uproot their kids and, when they've only got a couple of years left or a year left or whatever it might be, unless they have to, or some may be more willing to move because they're moving locally. So, unless that right property came across their plate and they're still going to be within the same school boundaries, then, that might be some level of encouragement if you did come across the perfect property that matches that criteria.
Yeah. So it's learning how to come over objections, is also learning how to have a proper dialogue to broaden the conversation beyond just the surface. Because really the meat is in more of the depth of the conversation.
Yeah.
Because it's so important to find out what would it take for them to have to be able to have that urgency or make that move. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, the only thing that's going to make somebody move is they have to have some type of sense of urgency. And that urgency, they're not going to make a move if their expectation in the market is not an opportunity. So all our job is in that matchmaking is finding out if opportunity can meet expectation. That is what makes the sale. But we get caught up in, well, the prices are too high, the interest rates are too high, I'm waiting for the market to drop. But at the end of the day, it's how much does it cost per month and what is the reason behind it.
Yeah.
So once we can learn how to have those intelligent conversations and go more depth, it changes the game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Now,
so open up the panel. Come on, guys, pop something in the Q&A, pop something in the chat. Let's get the party started.
Now, what would you suggest? So listening to conversations and just listening to other people's dialogues, you can identify, especially those individuals that are new at the game, new, unfamiliar with calling these type of leads. You can tell there's a little bit of, they're holding back, let's put it that way. They're holding back, they're nervous, things are coming across a little bit shorter than they should. What would you say would be a tip or a trick or suggestion for those individuals, like whether people are experienced or not, to get those leads to open up? Because again, a lot of times I'll see notes, oh, they weren't really willing to talk to me. They weren't really willing to talk to me. So what are some tactics that you've utilized over the years that just really helps to, lower the walls a bit or set the tone to have that person start to engage and actually, commit to the conversation?
The number one thing that helped me to change my dialogue is not being attached to the outcome of making an appointment. Because this industry has literally shoved down our throats, conversion, get the appointment, conversion, get the appointment. But at the end of the day, if that person is not ready to move, you're not getting an appointment. And if we're attached to that outcome and we don't get the appointment, we feel like we have failed. And that's not it at all. So if we start to truly appreciate that process of a conversation, they are people just like you and I. Yes, their defenses are up. Salespeople call constantly. They don't want to be sold to. So once we get past knowing that we are not telemarketers, we are not salespeople, we are professionals that are delivering quality information to somebody that's interested in the housing market. Nothing more, nothing less. So once we can come across with that kind of conversation and stop being attached to the outcome, they're going to feel like, oh, they're treating me like a real person and they're not trying to sell me something. Why I always come with the questions, because questions are what is going to open a person up. If we're telling, dictating, and talking, we're just tooting our own horn and it may not even be relatable to them. So instead of us talking, if we ask more questions, it helps us to have a more intelligent conversation. And again, stop being attached to that outcome and really enjoying the process of just a good conversation. Because the most important thing to find out is, where are you in the process? Point blank. That is the tell-all. Where are you in the home selling or home buying process? Are you 3 months out, 6 months out, a year out, 2 years out? I really don't care when you want to make that move, but what can I do to be memorable? Because I know, how many agents do you know? Right? And just play it. How many agents do you know? And they're probably going to say, well, 3 or 4. There's one in my neighborhood. There's a mom that my kids go to school with, and somebody on the baseball team. And I mean, people know agents. So what can I do to be memorable, that you remember me when it's time for you? What can I do for you in that process? And remember, think about your own life and the last time you moved. I don't care if it was with your parents, because I get this a lot. Well, oh my gosh, I've never bought a house. I'm a real estate agent. I don't feel that I can really properly educate somebody because I've never bought a house. It doesn't matter. You've moved and you know what that feeling is of moving. And if you really think about the last time that you moved, why did you move? What made you move? And could have anything happened to have made it happen sooner? And chances are, no. People don't move until they're pushed to that brink of have to. Because let's face it, it's not fun packing up your shit and moving it. Mm-hmm. Nobody's like, woo, I can't wait to box up my stuff and go through the moving process. I think the majority of us would love to just sell everything furnished and just go start anew. At the expense of starting anew, right? It's like, oh, you don't even think about it. But we really do have to sit back and think about, okay, the last time I moved, and go through that conversation in your head. Mm-hmm. If an agent called you and asked you about the process and just wanted to put you in a car and go show you homes, when you actually started looking, I promise you, the majority of you listening right now started the looking process way before you actually executed it. But, oh, our leads have a problem because we need to make money. And we forget that people really have actual lives and they enjoy that home hunting process online. Mm-hmm. And I even know myself, I remember when realtor.com just became a thing and I was able to look online for homes, I became completely addicted. This is way before I was a real estate agent, right when like the AOL was new and the whole searching homes was new. And there wasn't even like lead gen then. It was just, oh, you had a way of seeing homes, but you still had to call an agent. Mm-hmm. There was no way really linking anything. You just had the ability. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to find a house, because what am I going to do? What am I going to do if I find a house? Because now this has become a hobby. And some people do have that little bit of hesitation. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do after I find the house, because then it just becomes a game. Mm-hmm. All right. I see 2 in the Q&As. Yep. What's good, Crystal? I haven't opened
All right. We've got Daniel here. He is asking, how does your initial conversation go when you're calling a lead for the first time? What's the dialogue that you're using?
So, hey, this is Beverly. All right, let me back up. Know where the lead has been created from. Was it Facebook? Was it Google PPC? Was it a seller lead? How was the lead actually incubated into your site? And that's one of the most important things to identify, so that they're not saying, well, I didn't do that. So whenever I call them, I'm like, hey, Daniel, this is Beverly. I saw that you were online looking at homes in blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, I saw that you were on Facebook and you must have saw an ad and you were curious. Or, hey, you must have been interested in a value on this home if it was a home seller lead. So identify very quickly how you got their number, because that's going to start to drop the wall a little bit, because then they know, oh yeah, I'm busted. I gave you my information. So it's, hey, Daniel, this is Beverly. I saw that you were looking at homes online in blah, blah, blah. Just wondering what's going on? Where are you at in the process? And just leave it at that. And a lot of times they're like, well, I was just looking, and say, that's great. Awesome. What were you looking for? Like, what is your current situation right now? Do you own or do you rent? We own. Oh, how long have you been in your home? We rent. Oh, are you in a lease term or are you month to month? That itself is telling the story. Mm-hmm. Because if they've only been in their home for a year, well, that's a red flag. Like if you owned a home and you've only been there a year, why are you looking right now? You either really, really hate your neighbor, you're really pissed off at your HOA, or maybe you won the lottery. I don't know. Yeah. Or you're looking for somebody else, right? There's only a few reasons why somebody that just bought a year ago, but if they're like, 5, 6, 7 years ago, right? You're dealing with somebody with equity. Woo, yay, right? So that's where you want that conversation to go. And if they're renting, if they're in a lease term, that's going to tell you their time frame. So if they're in a lease term until September, great. What are your plans? Are you going to be signing a new lease, or do you plan on being in a home for September? Okay, well, if you plan on being in a home in September, the most important thing now is how much are they paying a month? Whether they own a property or whether they're renting, how much are you paying a month? Because that tells the second story. Okay, if you're paying that much a month, do you have flexibility to increase that number? Are you trying to keep that number about the same? And what this is telling you, and you should know your market well enough, if they're looking at a $2 million property and they're only paying $2,000 a month and they have zero equity, they're smoking crack. Unless they got money coming in from mom and dad, ain't nobody buying a $2 million property at $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
So then you're doing the investigation without kind of, I don't know,
it's a little more indirect, right? Yeah, it's a little more like you're just revealing and you're pulling the layers off to reveal the truth behind what they're telling you.
So you know how far to take that conversation, right? Mm-hmm. So once you know how much they're paying a month and what their plans are, then you can kind of gear the conversation and know, okay, this person ain't ever buying a home. And well, good luck with that. See you later. I'll set you up on a search. I'll put you in like future opportunity, smoking crack, Yeah. I'm joking here, but if they're looking at, let's say, $1 million property and they're paying, I don't even know, I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass, and they're paying $4,000 a month right now. Mm-hmm. There's some realism there, right? So let's talk about the equity in your home. Do you know how much equity you have? Yeah, probably my neighbors just sold for this. I mean, I will guarantee you they have some type of clue. Mm-hmm. But then we want to know, how important is it to you to know now? Because if you're not really planning on buying for a year, or you're not planning on doing anything for 2 years, is it really important for me to push a home evaluation on you right now? But if you're looking at maybe August, September, how important is it to you right now to know if you put your home on the market, hypothetically speaking, because then you're taking the pressure off. You're not, hypothetically speaking, if you were to put your home on the market right now, do you know what a buyer would pay for your home? And they'll probably give you a good guess and say, so here's what I would suggest. I will come to your home. I am not bringing a listing contract. I'm not bringing a sign. I don't want to list your property when I come to your home. It's the takeaway method. You completely remove that pressure. But I just want to come to your home and I just want to tell you what buyers are expecting and what they might pay for your home in today's market. So while you're looking online, we have some factual numbers to be able to really kind of wrap our brains around, is there a home that would meet your expectations if this was the number you got for your house? If not, no big deal. We gain nothing. But now you've planted the seed. You're starting to create that relationship. No matter if they sell or not, and here's what's happened in that process, they kind of get excited. And I always equate this to knowing where you want to go on vacation. A vacation, you're not even thinking about going away and laying on the beach in the sun until you start really researching vacation destinations. I'm sorry. I thought my phone was off. So if you're researching vacation destinations, that's that seed that was planted. That's whenever you're going over and kind of going over numbers with them. And now you're like, okay, now I got it down to, I'm going to Hawaii. I'm going to Puerto Rico. And then you start envisioning being there. So you start thinking about it a little bit more and you start getting a little bit more excited about it. And it's the exact same thing when you start going through the process with somebody that's making that move. Because then it's like, I don't know. I remember when I got pregnant, like nobody was pregnant. Then when I got pregnant, everybody was pregnant. Same with the car. You buy a car, nobody has a car until you buy the car, everybody has a car.
Exactly.
But we forget about that when we're having conversations with people. Because we're thinking about our bank account. We're thinking about, oh, we want to be number one sales. We want to have 5 listings this month. But it is truly about engaging in that process and getting those fine-tuned questions answered. So that to go back to that very first dialogue, that first thing is, don't go into this dissertation about what company you're with, about what website you are, about how great you are, about who you are. They don't care. They're on 10 different websites and they're only half listening. And I've realized I created my own objection whenever I would call and go, hey, this is Beverly with, I was Weintraub Homes, I was Keller Williams, I was your Northern VA home searcher. And they're like, who are you? None of that matters. What matters is finding out where they are in the process and how quickly can you get to that. So it's that real quick, hey, Daniel, this is Beverly. I saw you online looking, just wondering where are you in the process? What exactly are you looking for? Just looking. Awesome. Well, if you were to make that move, what does that just looking look like? What are your future plans? What's your current situation now? Do you own? Do you rent? And then just take it from there. And that is what tells the story. And then you can properly organize your leads based on the quality of that conversation. If they are way out in left field and they're really, truly looking for that deal, you might not want to exhaust all of your time into what they're looking for. But if they are looking for a deal and they're looking for a specific style of property, and just say to them, if I were to find that home in that price range, would that be of interest to you? Yes. If you have nothing else on the table and you're wondering what to do with your business because you have no closings, you have no buyers, and you have nothing to do, research, find something. And that is how you learn your market. And that's what I loved about online leads whenever I first started, because I didn't even know where to start. But I really tried to solve everyone's problems. And the renters are what got me kind of in trouble because, you know, it's easy to go down that path with renters because they're the ones that you can't get them to stop calling you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just choose what it is that you want to work with.
Yeah. Then your rental leads essentially turn into your buyer clients in a year or two from
100%.
now. You got to remember that, right? They may be anxious and eager now and drive you nuts, but you're going to be thankful for that when there's more money on the table.
Yeah.
And they're doing that. Related to that, Chandru has a question. When somebody doesn't want them to come into the home, but they want the evaluation, what would you be, you know, those people that they want to know the home value, but they're not ready to commit to that one-on-one situation. How would you respond to somebody like that? And would you make the CMA? Would you give them something? Obviously, you can't do a full report if you can't see the property, but how would you handle that situation where perhaps they are resistant to you coming into the home or doing any kind of formal
really
CMA?
depends upon the quality of the conversation that I'm having with them. If there's rapport and I really get a good vibe from them and I'm enjoying the conversation, only you can identify at that moment what you choose to do with your time. because your time is money. And I don't ever want to say, don't do it. I don't ever want to say, do it, because everyone is in a different place within their business. And coming from that place of just starting, I want to do 40 deals this year, but I have nothing. I have nobody in front of me. If you have a ready, willing, and able person, it's like, yeah, give me some numbers. Why wouldn't you? But if you are waking up every day and you've got this settlement to go to, and you've got these 5 listing appointments to go to, and you've got these buyers that you got to take out, you might not want to do it and just say, you know what? The only way I can do it is to come to your home. So it's, as you're building your business, your priorities are going to change with what you're doing with your time. Let me just tell my husband that I'm on my call. And then I am turning my phone off. Okay. So I look at every person as potential. And it's really important, again, to ask those right questions. If they're not planning on moving for 10 years, or they're not planning on moving at all, are they worth your time? And you can always delegate it out to somebody else. You can always delegate out to somebody else, because the chances of you closing that, and that's where when I look at qualifying my leads on a high priority or lower priority, if I do everything that I need to do to get them to the closing table, what are my chances of getting them to the closing table? If it's 70% chance or more, I'm going to do it. If it's not, so you really have to define, is it worth your time? Because, and understand where your level of commitment is in the follow-up process. I know I'm not great in the follow-up process. And I am a salesperson. And it's easy, very easy for me in the moment to overpromise. Oh my gosh, yes, I'll get that. I'll get that right over to you. I'll get over to you by tomorrow afternoon. And then I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about my settlement. And I forgot about this. And I forgot about that. And then I don't get it over to them. So now I've promised something that I didn't deliver on. So then I just like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't going to close them anyway. Just shoo them off, right? But that's where we truly fail. So it's really being quick to recognize your own habits. If you are going to give them something without a face-to-face, are you going to commit to following up and following through? And are you going to commit to that next level to make sure they received it? When they don't answer the phone and they don't respond to text, are you going to continue that follow-up process to say, hey, just want to check in on you. Did you get everything? Did you have any questions? And not stop at, well, they didn't answer the phone, so I just give up on them. That was a long-winded answer, but I think it like qualifies in a myriad of ways.
No, absolutely. And I guess he just continued with what happens if he goes with the other agent after they receive a CMA. That's with any CMA that you
that's even going to a listing appointment.
Yeah, it goes to anything. You're up against
you have somebody that's interviewing 5 agents. You're nothing in this life is guaranteed. Nothing.
Yeah. So it's, you win some, you lose some, but that's also using that judgment as well as feeling, what the probability or your chances of actually gaining them as a client when you're doing various things.
Yep.
Right.
And if you're doing nothing else in your business, it's giving you the opportunity to do research and learn that neighborhood, learn that area, learn that development, learn that zip code.
And I find it's also very, it's a passive way. Like I do, we all do it. Send me some information and I'll let you know if I'm interested. We're not going to read it. Like, let's face it. We're just get off the phone. I'm not really interested, but I don't want to be rude about it. So send me what you got and, I'll follow up, or feel free to reach out, or whatever it is, kind of more of a passive way to say, okay, do what you want to do, but I'm not making any promises. My level of commitment is
that opens up, when they do say that, that opens up such a tremendous opportunity to go that extra step. Because when someone says that, say, I understand if I send you over the CMA and I give you these numbers, what do you want me to do after that? Why is it important for you to have the numbers? I want to know how I can be a little bit different than every other agent, because most agents are just going to send you the numbers and then they're going to leave it to you to call back.
Mm-hmm.
So if I do the CMA for you, which I'm totally fine doing it for you, how do you want me to follow up in the process? What can I do for you that, again, is going to make me memorable so that you utilize my services and another agent?
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to say those things, because here's the reality. Wouldn't you rather know now than chasing something and it not turning out and finding that they close with somebody else because their best friend was a real estate agent?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have it in the first place. You have nothing to lose. So if we ask those questions out of the gate and we're asking, what can we do for you? How can we deliver what it is that you're looking for? That's what takes the conversation to a different level, because they're going to remember that conversation.
No, absolutely. Awesome. So we got a good one here from Mike. What are your top 3 buyer and seller questions to expose motivation?
Where are you in the process? What has to happen for you to be able to make that move? If I had a magic wand and I could make your life perfect, what would that move look like for you? Those are the 3 things. I mean, those are truly they can't make shit up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know, right?
More of an in-depth question, right? And that's where I always like to be hypothetical.
Mm-hmm.
What is the perfect situation? If you could just blink and be moved.
Yeah.
What's the perfect situation? Well, I would make $5 million on my home and I would buy for 2 million, right? And then you can start kind of having fun with the conversation if they're not like uber serious.
Mm-hmm.
But you're really going to get to the meat. 100% you're going to get to the meat.
Yeah.
Because everybody has a situation.
Mm-hmm.
But you just got to find out what it is. And sometimes people don't even know, because they like to look and they want to look.
Yeah, that's me. I like to look.
Yeah.
Always looking. Always looking.
And there's nothing even wrong with saying, so are you that HGTV watcher that loves to look at homes online, or do you have some attention?
Yeah.
And people are going to relate to that and they'll laugh.
Mm-hmm.
And then you find out, well, I'm an HGTV watcher, but
Mm-hmm.
we are going to be making a move in like 6 months or in a year.
Yeah. They want to. There's nothing pushing. A lot of time I find it's that people want to, or it's exposed in their thinking, but there's no, again, they may not have the motivation, or it's so overwhelming. They're like, I don't have to move. Why am I signing myself up for this?
Yes.
Right. It's a big job, as we all know.
Yes. Yeah. And everybody's situations are different.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Then we have Rodrigo here. He's asking, how would you handle a lead that says they know what they want and doesn't want to meet with the agent until they see what they want? So this is somebody that, again, is perhaps looking to buy, and they're resisting that, that initial buyer consult.
They don't think they need the help, and they think they can do it on their own. So with those people, it's really important to understand, if you find that perfect home, I have seen buyers lose that perfect home because they weren't prepared. If that perfect home pops in your email box this morning, are you prepared to put a contract on it? Because I don't want to see you lose it. And they're going to stutter. They're going to stutter. And that's okay, because that's what our job is. Because we all know it takes a couple of weeks to go to closing. Even if you're cash, you have to go through title, right? So there's certain things that have to be done. You can't just go to the store and buy a house today. So tell me, so I know, what does that perfect house look like, so that I can also be putting eyes, because I know about properties before they actually come on the market. Because people don't just like put their house on the market Like, it's not like Marketplace, right? It's not like you go on Facebook and you put your house up. People know weeks before, months before, that they're going to be selling. So therefore, we as real estate agents always know homes pre-market. So if I know exactly what it is that you're looking for, I can possibly make that match for you. So get more information out of them. And then offer that suggestion. But I like to plant that seed of doubt. Because if you were to find that perfect home, are you prepared? Do you have to sell your home to purchase? Because then, they're just kicking stones. They don't have any intention. That's just like you said earlier, that's just their passive way of, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you. But you have to find out what that reason is of why they want to be making that move and if they're prepared. And that tells the story.
So, and Indy is asking, how do you ask someone, so this I think a lot of people can benefit from, how do you ask someone about their finances without sounding like you're asking for too much information? I want to be able to see if they qualify for what they're looking for.
Yep. That was probably one of the most uncomfortable things for me when I started making my phone calls. And because it was so uncomfortable, I really reframed how I was asking questions, because I don't want to ask somebody, well, so how much money do you make? Or, how much? So I really like to know, okay, so I see that you're online looking at homes for $1 million. Do you know what a monthly mortgage payment would be on that? No. Well, it all depends, right? If you're going to be putting X amount of money down, if you're not putting any money down, whatever the scenario is, it can be anywhere between this number and that number. Is that a number that's comfortable for you? How much are you paying right now? Because we're here to protect their wallet. When we're working with buyers, our job is to save them the most amount of money. And the only way we can do that is to identify those numbers. So how I would get them to the lender prematurely is I wouldn't really tell them what that number would be. I would try and make that marriage and say, before you really start looking online and get excited, I just want to make sure that we're protecting what you're going to be comfortable spending a month. Because then, exactly like I said in the beginning of this webinar, we need to make sure that your expectation of what you want to afford per month, that there's going to be an opportunity. Because if we can't find a home in the proper price range, we're kind of looking for no good reason. So I don't care if you're getting pre-approved. That's not my intention. What it really is. The most important thing to me is making sure that we can find a home that meets the budget that you're comfortable in. Like, oh, okay. Because now they're not even thinking pre-approval. So now it takes the scariness out of it and it puts the questioning into it. But that's how I love to spin that one. I always ask them if they know how much it's going to cost per month and find out what they're paying now. And then you start digging, do you have money to put down? Because the only thing that's going to change that number on that price range is how much money you're putting down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if they own their home or if they're first timers, right? So it all makes a big difference.
I like to backdoor my questions. Same with if they have an agent. Same with, I have an agent. Well, can I just ask a question because I have to sleep at night? How well do you know your agent? Like, how did you find your agent? Well, I was online and they've been sending me listings. All right, so I have to ask you this. Have they sat down and talked to you about what is most important to you in the home buying process? And 100% they're going to say no. Well, it's really important to me to understand what's important to you. Kind of like whenever you're going to the doctor. If you're sick, you're not calling the pharmacist to tell them what drug you need. You're going to go to the doctor and they're going to ask you a myriad of questions to really be able to properly diagnose you. So it's really important to me to go through some really definitive questions to know about, are schools important to you? Being close to hospitals is important to you. How close do you want to be to your lifestyle? What size of yard is important to you? What are the things that you will not compromise on? So when we start having those conversations, they're like, oh gosh, this person really cares about me. It's not just about showing me any home.
Mhm.
So I always like to backdoor and kind of make light of, I don't want to step on any agent's toes, but I just want to make sure, because everybody has their license. I just want to make sure that you 100% trust the agent that you're working with. And a lot of buyers don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't even know what goes on behind the scenes with negotiations with other agents.
I think too, you've had one way of identifying if they have an agent is asking if they've actually gone to see any houses yet.
Yes.
Right, because we're asked, a lot of us will ask, and I'll see it when we're being accounts. So many of the leads have agents. It's like, there's no way that there's this many leads in here that have an agent, right? So, and those are direct questions. Are you working with an agent, or do you have an agent? A lot of people are going to say yes to that question. If someone asks me, I'm going to say yes. So, hey, like, look at how many realtors I know. Why wouldn't I not have an agent? Right. So it's asking in a little bit more of an indirect way of, have you primarily just been looking online? Yeah.
How
Have
long
you
have you
just,
been looking?
is it just been online, or have you gone to see any homes yet? Right. If they've gone to see homes, that's where you start digging a little bit deeper. If it's online, that in most cases, they know an agent, they're not working with an agent, or this agent is, again, just somebody sending them listings.
Yep. Even when they say, no, I'm not looking at homes. Well, how did you see them?
Mm-hmm.
Did you actually go in them? Because a lot of times they say that and they're just driving by. So you've got open houses they can attend. You've got new construction that they can go into. You've got drive-bys they can be doing. So really, define that. But I do like to ask, how long have you been looking?
Mm-hmm.
And if they say 6 months, well, tell me about the process. Have you been in any homes?
Mm-hmm.
So then you really get to gauge like where they truly are.
Yeah.
Without asking.
I think that happened like a couple of years ago on one of our webinars, and the lady said she'd been looking, the time she had an agent, and then the time frame that she'd been looking for was just like, what? Like, if you're working with an agent, how is it that you have not found a home? And I can't remember what the thing was. It was just something that was unrealistic. In other words, right? It exposes their honesty sometimes as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing, right? And it was really fun having that dialogue in the multiple offer market, because it was so easy to have that conversation with that buyer. Because how long have you been looking? 6 months. How many homes have you been in? Heck, we've written 5 offers. Tell me about that. What's happened? And they're like, well, and I remember this so instinctively. He's like, every offer we wrote, we go in 50,000 less. And I'm like, what's like, where does that number come from? Has your agent educated you in how to structure an offer to be competitive to win? And then that's where that no. Well, we just felt, 50,000 was a good number. I don't know. They actually were increasing it $50,000. Yeah, it was very bizarre.
Yeah, just a random number. That's it.
Yep.
Just throw it out there. Then he bought a home. So this is again, this is going to be similar to your seller question. You can't win them all. So Chandru is just saying, almost all buyers say want to buy, but send me good listings. And if you send me listings, if it's nice, I'll buy with you. And then they buy with another agent. Again, that's
asking better questions.
Yeah.
It's 100% asking better questions. And I have identified in all of my trainings, the comfort zone of a lot of us as agents is how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what area. I'll send you listings over. If you find something, let me know. That is the predominant conversation that just about every agent has with a lead. It's surface bullshit that doesn't matter, because I don't care how many bedrooms or how many bathrooms if you have zero urgency. So I want to know more about your situation and what has to happen to make that move before I'm going to spend time setting up listings for you. So yes, we can spend a hell of a lot of time setting up listings for the wrong people if we're not asking the right questions. And that's where, like I said earlier, if you're not going to follow up and follow through and set up that expectation, it's really a waste of time, because that next conversation, if I'm sending you these listings, what is your favorite form of communication? When do you want me to check back in with you? Next week, next month, every other week, text, phone. How do you want me to follow up with you? When do you want me to follow up with you? Okay. If I call you next week, you're saying, call me next week, make sure I got them. Well, sir, if you don't answer the phone, I don't want to like blow up your phone, but I just want to make sure that you do receive it. How would you like me to follow up if you don't answer the phone? Just shoot me a text. Can you do me a favor, Mr. Seller? Can you just promise me that you would have said, got it? Just so I know, because I just don't trust communication sometimes. It just, sometimes I know a black hole and it doesn't go through. I just want to make sure that you do receive it. Set those expectations with that person, and you're going to 100% improve your chances. So if you're going to take the time to set up the listings, take the time to set the expectation on both sides, because you want them to know what to expect from you, and they want to know what to expect from you. So that's how you kind of counteract that one. And again, you're not going to win them all.
I think it's also, you're never going to win them all. And I think it's also how you're standing apart from that the competition out there, and the conversation itself that you're having with that person. Because if I was like one of your leads in the system and I have all these in, like, this is what I'm looking for, just send me the listings. The person that adds the most value to that conversation I had, whether they're just sending me listings or this one person had a more in-depth, we clicked, they educated me, they guided me on what I should be doing next. That's the person that I'm naturally going to lean towards, because I almost feel like I'm a little bit more obligated to them, right? There's that little bit of trust, that I trust what they're telling me and it's helped me so far. So I'm going to go back to that. Right. So it's just making sure, like, and it's not hard to be that one step better than the competition, because a lot of people will just set people up and then forget about them, or they're just sending them listings and just periodically checking in, but not adding value. And a lot of it's convenience. Right. So if we're not following up as much as we should be, those potential buyers, the other agents in some cases, are just being that much more convenient.
And that's a big misnomer, right? It's we can be doing everything right, but it's the convenience factor that wins. You can be following up and having conversations and talking to people, but they drive by the home of their dreams and they call the sign. And they end up getting locked in with that agent. They're not doing it on purpose. It's just the convenience factor. Technology has truly killed that honesty and that commitment factor in this industry. And if we're not constantly trying to stay in contact, we're going to miss that window of opportunity. Because I've had sometimes, like, you call somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, I just drove by this house today. I was going to call the listing agent. Well, I'm glad I called you today, right? And we miss opportunities by not doing the follow-ups. Now, we can't guarantee that they're going to answer the phone. We can't guarantee that they're going to be communicative, but we are setting ourselves up for that success if we follow up and follow through. And to your point, Crystal, it's not that difficult to be better than your competition. Fortunately, it's not.
Yes, it really isn't. And we're all guilty of it, right? We dropped the ball. That's why we try to guide you guys on your filters and just being consistent. And then that, decreases the ball dropping for sure. So Pavel has here, I guess this is a dialogue that he uses when he's calling, I guess, potential sellers. So he says, hey, this is Pavel. I'm not even going to pronounce your last name, with Remax Hallmark. I'm calling because I have a few interested buyers in your area. Are you, or do you know anyone interested in selling? No, not now. Right. So mostly he's getting a lot of no's with that. How do you respond to that if you're having that conversation with them, and then setting them up on Street Match? Yes, he's asking if you set them up, and then of course the follow up. Pavel, the one great thing that you have is sold listings. right? So you set the street match is essentially that, right? It's going to send them the active and sold. So 100% yes, you want to continue to nurture them because you're going to be able to watch that activity. But I'll let Beverly respond to with respect to the answer no. How would you carry on a conversation after you get that no?
Do you have any future plans of a move? That's either a yes or no.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say, oh yeah, but it's not going to be for a while. So what has to happen for you to make that move? And that's how you build your pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And the follow up to that is, if you were to make a move, if something were to happen in your life and you were to make a move, do you have an agent that you would use? Yes or no? If it's no, could I be that agent for you? And then you can add them to a mailing list. And that way, with circle prospecting and or snail mail and branding, I was so zero laser focused on the people that I was mailing that I knew I had a higher chance of conversion than those agents that were just blasting everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather send 100 cards 10 times than 1,000 cards once.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start building that pipeline and you know what your communication is going to be, whether it be marketing, whether it be community events, whether it be whatever it is, you can now start building that line of communication. And then just asking them, say, you know what? I'm building my business this year. If you know of anybody that would be in the market to buy or sell, would you mind just giving them a referral? I just give them my name. You never know what'll happen because you can't be afraid of something that you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So just find out again, okay, you might not be now, but what about your future?
Yeah.
How long have you been in your home?
A little bit more. I always find too, I used to do a lot of calls for a developer, and I found that when you say, if the price is right, would you consider? You get a lot more yes. You get a lot more curiosity out of, if that price was right, then would you consider selling, right? Because they a lot of times have no idea what their home is valued at, but it kind of spikes their interest a little bit about, you're not putting like there's a value to that.
Well, and years ago, there was, oh my gosh, it was a lot of years ago. And I haven't really seen anybody do it since, but pop that question out there. It was a big Facebook thing.
Yeah.
If you could get a certain number for your home, would you sell?
Mm-hmm.
Private message me that number.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes people aren't way off.
Yeah. And
but yes, to your point, even on those phone conversations, Crystal, you could say, do you have a make me move number?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
And one of my coaching clients, it's so funny. One of my coaching clients, I asked him that question. I said, do you have a make me move number? And he's like, I never really thought about it. And he goes, I do. His home was on the market in the next 2 weeks. He was not planning on moving. He started thinking about that number. He's like, oh my God, I can make this happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, you never know when you catch people.
No, exactly. Exactly. And a lot of people are so like, they have no idea what they're sitting on, right? So been there for so many years. So they just don't, a lot of people don't pay attention. They don't care about the market. They're not watching it because that thought of moving isn't even something that's crossed their mind. So
yep.
Kishwar is here saying, my client missed a good opportunity yesterday as he took his sweet time to make a draft. When I told him house is already sold, he did not say that he really wanted to buy it. Now what questions should I ask to bring him back on track? So how do we get him back on track? So I guess he was taking his motivation. I guess his motivation, maybe it was specific to that house, or do you feel like it's specific to the buying process altogether?
Yep. And that's asking him.
Yeah.
It's okay. We missed this opportunity. It obviously wasn't meant to be. How can we prevent this from happening again? How important is this to you on a scale of 1 to 10 for it to not happen again? Is it time to really be prepared? Or is it not? And that's where finding out what that urgency is and
Mhm.
why. You know,
Mhm.
there's some people that they want that one specific home because it was their grandmother's, or they want that
Mhm.
one specific home because, or they want that one specific subdivision. But I even find people that are like, I have to be in the subdivision. And then a home comes on the market in a subdivision. Well, it doesn't have a basement, or well, it doesn't have this. Do you want to be in a subdivision, or do you like, what do you want?
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
What it's defining. Okay, you want to be in the subdivision, but if this home comes on the market, would you buy? No, it doesn't have a pool, or no, right? It's a myriad of reasons.
Mhm. No, absolutely.
People love excuses.
I know. Right. They're just not really fully committed, or, especially when it comes to like first time buyers, it's a big commitment. It is scary because you're now locking yourself into this tremendous loan, right? It's not like you're renting.
Yep.
You're committed to, like, even though you're renting, you're committed to those payments, but it's not like having a mortgage, right? It's a scary step for a lot of individuals. It's a little
It is.
overwhelming.
It is.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, that's it for questions so far, unless anyone, he was a first time home buyer. Yeah, so it could have been a little bit of cold feet.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
walking them through that process. And I said, just asking those
Mhm.
questions and finding out what does keep them up at night,
Yeah.
and encouraging them
Hmm.
on. So what's going through your mind right now?
Hmm.
Like, do you have any fears? Do you have any thoughts? Like, what are you thinking about right now in the process?
Hmm.
And our job is to get them over that, because a lot of times they just might be afraid to ask the questions because they feel silly or they think they
Yeah.
should know.
Yeah. Right.
And
A
that's why
lot of.
those questions are so important for us to pull out.
Mhm.
What is most important to you? And that's why, like, in that buyer counseling process, what is most important? You know, Especially if you have a husband and wife, you have to make sure that they have a meeting of the minds, because the worst thing in the world is you find the perfect home. The husband's like, nope, I told you, honey, no garage. I do, I have to have a separate garage, right? And then
Mhm.
you're like, I wasted my time showing this house. We shouldn't have even looked at this house. So you can
Mhm.
really eliminate and find out, what are you willing to concede on? Are you willing to concede on anything? If that, because, and that happens a lot in price ranges, right? You'll have buyers that start looking at a certain price range. And if they can't find something that meets their expectation, they're either going to change location on you without you knowing it, or they're going to start going, well, if I buy a fixer upper. So they start that process without you even being none the wiser, because they're excited about moving, but they can't find anything.
Mhm.
So it's us beating them to the punch.
Yeah.
If we don't find anything, are you open to a different location? Are you open to looking at a home that may need some more work that would be less money? So how can we work to make this work to open up more of an opportunity, or is it completely off the table? So
Yeah.
I like to beat the objection before it becomes one. Because I was
Okay.
that buyer. I
Yeah.
was that one that I'm like, I want to be in this part of the in this part of the zip code to be closer to where my ex-husband was working. Well, the prices were so high, it wasn't making sense, and we weren't finding what we were looking for just to move right in. So then I was like, okay, well, let's buy a fixer upper. We could buy something damn cheap. But then I started looking at those. I'm like, oh my God, the amount of work.
Mhm.
But then we ended up moving further out, because now we got the bug, we got to move.
Yeah.
The opportunity was right. But we moved in all those myriads of ways to just make it work.
Mhm.
But sometimes people just have to go through that process. And if we ask those questions out of the gate, it does save a lot of time.
Mhm.
And two, do they have the opportunity to go to something cheaper to fix up? They may not have, they may be cash poor, and they may not have the money to, but once they put the money down, they may not have any money to put into a home. So that might not even be an option. But finding out, are you okay with a home that's going to need a roof in a year, that's going to need a hot water heater in a year, that's going to need all new appliances in a year? Are you okay with that? Or do you need something that you're not going to be putting money into? Do you
Mhm.
need something newer that isn't going to need a roof for 10 years, that
Yeah.
isn't going to need new appliances for 5 years? And having those conversations really does change the game.
No, absolutely. So this is our final question, So Saki here. I've been working with a buyer since last year, on and off, and have come close to putting offers. 2 times in the process, I was told that they were putting an offer through another agent, but wanted my take on it, which I couldn't follow through due to obvious reasons when they're on contract. And then they resurfaced and started the home search process and showings again with me, but to the date have not put an offer through with me. What are your thoughts? Should I keep working or drop it? I usually don't like to give up on clients, but this one is becoming exhausting. They keep looking at the listings and emails I send and seek more info on the ones they like.
Definitely know what their motivation is. 100% find out, because it doesn't sound like they're extremely motivated. And I love being the second or third agent, because they've now exhausted everybody and they're coming back to you for a reason, because you've stuck with them. So I wouldn't necessarily drop them, but just definitely find out or know what their motivation is, because there is nothing worse than when a buyer tells you this is the exact home I want, you find that exact home, and they still find a reason to not write an offer on it. You're just like, I don't even understand. Like, what's the real problem here? Because you said, I found you everything that you wanted and more, but now you're finding a reason not to put an offer on this home. So you really do have to like peel back those layers to find out what the real problem is and what the real fear is. Because there's definitely something there that's preventing them. And, you know, if they're in a rental situation, they're going to have to get out at some point. If their home, if they have to sell a home and it's not on the market yet, they really don't have to hurry. So it's that, you know, your level of tolerance. And sometimes we can work with the wrong clients and create our own problems, but only you know that level of tolerance. But it's asking those questions. And I'm not afraid of buyer agency, because when I present it to somebody, I let them know I want a commitment, not because I want you to commit to me. I want the commitment so that you can hold me accountable to do my job. My job is to find you the exact home that you're looking for. And I am going to go to the ends of the earth to find that home for you. And that includes off-market properties, because I researched the hell out of the market. I would go back to previous expireds. I would go into particular neighborhoods and do the circle prospecting. I have a client that wants to be in this neighborhood. So I did go above and beyond. So I really want to make that commitment to you, but I can't if you don't commit to me. So please hold me accountable. And I don't even care if you want out of this agreement, but I want you to hold me accountable to the expectation you have of the job that I'm doing. And if they won't sign it, you probably wouldn't have closed them anyway.
Sounds almost like they're working with an agent that's out of area, and they're going through you and using the other agent because they're the ones that's it's like a friend or family or whatever.
And this is a great way to close this out, because me going through the process, I have my 1-bedroom condo in Atlanta. My husband and I have a 2-bedroom condo in the same high rise. My son has been living in the 1-bedroom condo. We've now bought a restaurant in Alabama, and we were looking at homes in and around the restaurant. We wanted to be on water. I'm an agent. I'm not an agent in Alabama. So I was that person online, but I refused to log into anything because I didn't want the phone calls, because I know, right? So I cannot believe in our restaurant how many real estate agents, I probably got 10 cards within a week. I'm an agent. I'm an agent. Are you looking to buy? You're looking to buy. You're looking to buy. But nobody stood out. Here's my card. Let me know. Here's my card. Let me know. Our neighbors, they walk over to the restaurant. And one of the neighbors said, oh, hey, Earl, the developer, he has a few rental units over there. You might want to call him and see if he has any that he would be willing to sell. There's 2 homes on the market, and I'm sorry, there was 1 home on the market in that community. I called the listing agent. I told her I was an agent. I wanted to see the property. She said, well, let me call and see. The guy was sick. He didn't want anybody to come in and look at it. He temporarily took it off the market. So I called the developer. He said, I actually do have one. If you're serious, bring me an offer. Oh shit, I don't know Alabama contracts. So I sat on it like for a couple of days, just figuring out like what I wanted to do with it, because I knew it wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't on the market. That agent that didn't show me that property that she had listed called me, and she said, hey, Bev, I just heard there's a there's a home going on the market later this afternoon. Would you want to see it? Hell yeah. I met her over there as soon as it hit the market. She showed us through the property, and then I asked her about seeing 2 other properties. The one property we never got to go in because the lady that lived in it was just, and I said, this is, you remember, or I remember very quickly why I got frustrated with the real estate situation, right? Because you have a seller that wants to sell their home, but they don't make it available to see.
Yeah.
And we never did see it. But this is what I'll tell you. Out of all those agents that brought cards into the restaurant, the one that she showed me was from a broker that was in my restaurant that gave me a card. He listed that property and never told me, but she did. They were out the soccer fields with their kids. He's, oh, hey, by the way, if you know, I know you have a listing in there. If you know of anybody that's looking in there, I have a listing going on. He didn't call me. She did. Hello. So when I called early, he said, bring me an offer. I'm like, hey, Rebecca, would you write that offer for me? Let's escalate the price. He told me this is the number he wanted. I want to make sure you get your commission. She went above and beyond. Mm-hmm. It was convenience 110%. But there was so much opportunity that every single agent that walked in that restaurant missed because they never asked the right questions. Mm-hmm. If they would have said, Bev, you want to be on the water? You need to be in this subdivision and this subdivision. Let me do some research. Hell yeah. I'll make sure you get your commission. So I escalated the price of the home because he's selling it to me off market price. So we have a lot of room to give her commission. So it's asking the right questions and going above and beyond. And she is freaking amazing. I'm so glad we got connected. Mm-hmm. So don't give up on people. Ask the questions, follow up and follow through, and treat people like you want to be treated. And you're not going to lose. People are absolutely going to go with convenience, but you can't change that. All you can do is know at the end of the day, you did everything that you possibly could. And that's why you're in this business. God, great questions today, guys.
Yeah,
I loved it.
They're all very good. And there are a lot of them are like the situations that you guys are all encountering, right? So it's not just like made up hypothetical scenarios. Like this is the day in the life of a realtor and your lead gen.
Yep. I see Chandru said almost everyone online is connected with 10 other realtors and they haven't signed anything. Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
They don't have to. And that's why it's up to us to take that another level and ask the right questions and earn their business. Mm-hmm. And that's why I tell people straight up, I'm like, you have the opportunity to use any agent that you want. I want the opportunity to earn your business. How can I earn your business? What can I do different? What are you looking for? And that's just a level of conversation that they're not used to having. And they appreciate that because they know you care then.
Yeah.
And they're not just another paycheck or another closing to you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Thank you for spending your time today. Thank you. Thank you for the fantastic
great webinar. And we'll be back at her in a couple of weeks now.
Yes. Have a wonderful rest of your week, everybody.
You as well. Thanks, everyone. Bye, guys.